It was a calm morning at San Francisco International Airport. Passengers boarded their flights, unaware that within minutes, an emergency would unfold like never before. Meanwhile, in the skies above, another plane was approaching the runway for takeoff clearance. The pilots had just received instructions to move to the same runway, but what they didn't realize was that it was already occupied. With only seconds to react, the pilots of the second plane knew they had no choice but to act fast. In an adrenaline-fueled decision, they pushed the throttle and pulled the nose up, forcing an early and aggressive takeoff. In a heart-stopping moment, the landing gear of the second plane narrowly missed the roof of the taxiing aircraft. Disaster was averted by mere inches. But the nightmare was far from over. As the airborne plane climbed, the pilots had no idea that another danger was lying in wait just ahead. A large flock of birds had gathered near the end of the runway, and before the pilots could react, several birds were sucked into the engine. Within moments, the right engine exploded, sending flames and smoke billowing into the sky. The pilot and first officer quickly declared an emergency. They were losing thrust on one side, and with the weight of the aircraft and the sudden loss of power, the Boeing 737 was dangerously close to stalling. Inside the cabin, passengers could see flames licking the side of the plane. Panic set in as they watched the right engine fail, and the plane tilted sharply to one side. The pilots, highly trained for these moments, fought to stabilize the aircraft. But the Boeing 737 was in trouble. With only one engine functioning, it was losing altitude fast. Back on the ground, air traffic control was scrambling to clear the runway for an emergency landing. But time was running out. The only available runway was now cluttered with vehicles and equipment at the far end. But despite their best efforts, the plane was moving too fast. There were cars and maintenance vehicles directly ahead. The captain tried to veer the plane off the runway, but it was too late. The runway was running out, and at the end stood a bridge over the airport access road. With no time to stop, the pilots braced for impact. The plane collided with the side of the bridge. Metal crunched, glass shattered, and the Boeing 737 came to a violent halt. The sound of the crash echoed through the airport. Emergency responders rushed to the scene, their only goal, to save as many lives as possible. Flames consumed part of the aircraft, but incredibly, many on board survived the horrific crash. It was a crash that no one expected, and a tragedy that could have been far worse. Thanks to the heroic efforts of the pilots and emergency crews, countless lives were saved that day. But the terrifying events of this flight serve as a chilling reminder of the dangers that can arise in even the most routine of flights. Sometimes, it's not just skill, but sheer luck that determines whether a flight will end in tragedy or survival. In memory of those affected by the events on that fateful day, and in honor of the brave pilots and first responders who continue to safeguard the skies.